Into the racks every week, keep craving that rush that you get when you flip to the next page. Life is better when you live in between Wednesdays. Yes, say, got a massive back.
What's up, folks? I'm your host, Konrad, on Wednesday Night Reviews, and today I'm joined by Brandon Starocci, and we're going to talk about their new comic that's on Kickstarter very soon. Brandon, thanks for taking the time to come on the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So yeah, first easy question for the folks out there in YouTube land who've maybe never seen your face, maybe never heard your name, or have no clue what Avalon is. Can you describe who Brandon is?
Yeah, I'm just a normal guy. Recently just started getting into the, creative, industry and all that stuff too within the last couple of years. Alan and I started the project Avalon that obviously I'm promoting here now. But so basically, we're just trying to get into the creative kind of entertainment business and all that stuff with Avalon, and kind of doing other things as well, short films and all that stuff. I'm a big movie guy. I try to watch movies whenever I can. And growing up, it's been my thing too. But kind of rolling into Avalon. Avalon is a brand new post-apocalyptic comic book. It, zombies, but we're doing a different take on it, and we hold traditional values as well. So, all the things that I love about zombies are going to be in this. All the things I hated about zombies are not going to be in this, and obviously you'll figure that out as issues go by. We try to really ground Avalon in reality, as much reality as possible, especially being in a fictional world. Sometimes that could be hard, sometimes that could be easy. And one of the big things that helped us was COVID, because that's the closest thing to, I guess, an apocalypse that you're going to get to anytime soon, I guess. So it made it easier for the writing process for that. But
right on. Okay. Then you know what? Given that the Kickstarter that you're doing is for issues 4 and 5, correct?
Yes. Then
can you kindly, without being super spoilery, because I imagine for 4 and 5 you're going to have like a catch-up tier, can you sum up sort of the first 3 issues, what they do, and narratively sort of what they set up? That way folks can be excited for 4 and 5.
Yeah. So obviously with issue 1, you have to really introduce the characters and introduce the world. This world that we're creating, we look at it as more of a main character than the characters themselves that we kind of show you and introduce to the readers. But there isn't really a hero's journey, a specific hero's journey that we're going to be following through these characters. Like I said, the main character is really the world that we built. We're following the Castle family in the beginning so far, and issue 1, you kind of figure out stuff's going on and all that stuff. You introduce these characters. We really shine. I mean, we made it very apparent about mental health and all that stuff too, and anxiety, depression, and all that stuff too, with a couple of the characters. And we that's introducing that into this kind of series that we're creating. And issue 2, stuff starts to speed up, and more action happens in issue 2 as well. We're showing it's a split storyline between issue 1 and 2 with the family and the oldest brother Andy and his partner Miller that you meet. And then issue 3, you'll see Andy and Miller's journey trying to kind of group up with their families and all that stuff too. So then so issue 4 and 5, you're going to kind of see the result of from issue 1, 2, and 3, and really start to figure out the differences in our series compared to other zombie genres projects in the past.
One of the things that I find I end up asking folks who make post-apocalyptic or apocalyptic, as it's literally we're watching it unfold in Avalon, is given what I perceive to be a saturation of zombie stories, maybe because I'm not into zombies, but from things like The Walking Dead, now that Last of Us is out on TV, a lot of people know that. An easy question to ask is, what makes it different? Now, having read the first issues, I highly enjoy it so far. It definitely feels different to me. But in your words, can you describe why someone should care about Avalon if they've already seen Walking Dead, or what is it that you're doing different?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to steer away from juggernaut shows or comic books like that, because the principle's there. It's a survival. You're trying to get through this world and all that stuff too. So that's the spine of what we're working on. The differences are, you know, and I've been a fan of the genre for a while, and I know that there's a lot of bad projects out there, and I know there's a lot of good projects out there as well. But like with all of them that I think have in common, that like things that we're really trying to do with Avalon is bring the reality to life more and more and more. We're really, like I said, mentioned a little bit ago about the mental health, not just bringing it up and then kind of writing it off. It's here to stay. You're going to see these characters broken down. You're going to see some irrational decisions being made. You're going to see some real life things that people deal with on a day-to-day basis in this apocalypse that we're showing. And then one of the big things as well is like real life physical problems as well, and things with zombie shows or comics and all that stuff as well. They kind of steer those off as well. Like I'm talking cancers, diabetes, heart problems, and stuff like that. Things that need surgery most times as well. All that stuff's real things that people deal with on a day-to-day basis. People who take medications. What happens when this world happens and then I need a medication and I'm out of medication? So those are really things that we want to focus on, and really developing the characters and the falls and the highs and all that stuff with these characters. And again, one of the big things I already mentioned as well was really having the world dictate the story rather than following, say, a Rick Grimes hero journey or a Joel hero's journey. You know, we're not focusing on one person's journey. It's a family and world journey that we're kind of seeing it all fill out. And our infection as well is going to be a lot different than anything people have seen. It seems pretty traditional now, but it's on purpose to kind of get people into it. And then you're going to start seeing issues, what makes them different and what makes them tick differently as well. And we're excited for that to come up here in the next few issues.
Hell yeah. One thing, you know, you've touched on it quite a bit, so I want to make sure I mention as well as the mental health thing. Because I've seen, you know, a lot of folks, unfortunately, do deal with mental health issues. And I guess this is going to sound weird, but I guess the positive that comes out of that is creators deal with mental health issues. Sure. And so they write about it. They talk about it, and that kind of normalizes everything. And one thing that came to me as like a shining light in this comic, because it struck me as so profoundly well done, was the youngest castle's anxiety. So for the folks who haven't read the book yet, you should go support the Kickstarter campaign, links down below. But when we first meet him, he's in a booth for his birthday with his family members. Correct me if I'm wrong, I believe he's sitting, his mother or older sister is beside him.
Older brother. Yep. Older brother to the side there. Yeah. 3 brothers and all that stuff. So it's mom and dad across, Ty is the middle brother, and then Mason, the youngest brother. Andy, which is the oldest brother, is not there, obviously, and you'll figure out more of that in issues to come as well. But yeah.
Yeah. And what I liked so much was how he dealt with his anxiety. Like it was his birthday and they were like, oh, we're going to get a cake. And I loved the fact that he's like, they're not going to sing for me, are they? Because like, I hate that. It makes me feel bad. And then the whole family was like, and you know, quickly, I believe one of them gets up and he goes and he's like, can we just get cake to go? And
yeah.
It's one of those things where like, oh, that's a weird thing. You know, someone could see that and not think about it, but like, I get that. Right. And it humanized the hell out of him. Can you talk about like the creative process behind creating him as well as like the other characters that deal with mental illness?
Yeah, I mean, specifically for Mason, the youngest character, you know, it's almost very easy for me, I guess, to write that because I have a lot of family members in my real family that deal with anxiety and deal with things. And a lot of that stuff, especially in issue 1, are almost real instances that happen, but I obviously formed it into the comic book and made it make sense more. But those are almost real things that happen. You know, there's people that, and people deal with that, like you said as well. Like, you don't want somebody coming up singing happy birthday, especially when you have anxiety and everybody's looking at you, everybody hears the singing and all that stuff too. So it's very easy, I think, for me to write that personally, you know, because we all deal with anxiety. I've dealt with anxiety. Like I said, family members close to me have dealt with anxiety like that as well. And it's just little things like that, like you said, it does humanize them and it does make them feel almost a little more real. And other characters, like what I had a good time writing Miller's character, Andy's partner. He a lot of his sayings, his conversations, and all that stuff was said in real life between me and my friends, or I've overheard other friends say a couple of those things as well. So just kind of bringing that in to this world, to me, obviously, because it's real life things that happened already, it even brings it even more realism to the world than I originally anticipated. But it's a lot of this stuff is stuff that's happened. I've heard it, I've seen it, I've done it, you know what I mean? And bringing it into the world and all that stuff, it makes it feel a lot more real, and it's fun to do all that stuff.
Hell yeah. You know, we're about 10 minutes in, and it's very important to me that we touch on this. If someone's already hooked, if it's like, you know what, zombie comic with, you know, mental health issues in it, real world implications for medication, which I want to touch on a little later. If they want to get your book, if they want to support you, what's the best way?
Best way is literally, I guess, just look up Avalon Comic on any social media platform, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you know, Patreon and all that, YouTube even. So just look for us anywhere. We have a link tree attached to it as well. You could buy our comic book on our Shopify store. We have all 3 issues there. We just sold out of the physical copies of issue 1. Which is good and bad for people who want it. But we do have PDFs for each version that's on the Shopify as well. You know, so if you are interested, if you're even interested in checking it out, I do recommend, if you're not sure about it, I do recommend just getting the PDF. It's $1.99 for each PDF. Pretty cheap. Check it out. It's worth a shot. Even if you're a little interested in it, just give it a shot. $1.99 each.
Gorgeous. That's fantastic. Yeah. Also, selling out of your first issue, congratulations.
Yeah,
it's
thank
a good
you.
problem to have.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Then you know what? Yeah, to touch sort of on, I guess, the comic more, for folks at home who, you know, they're watching, I'll have some art come up that I'll pull out of the first issue so they can see it. But it's very much got the vibe, and I believe in an earlier interview you did with someone, they said this. It feels like classic McFarlane, like the old Spawn comics, like the first 100 issues or maybe even less, because McFarlane's got such a unique style.
Yeah. Yep.
Can you talk about how you met, I guess, the whole creative team? Let's go through it. So what's your role? Who's your co-creators, and how did you find your artist?
So I'm the creator and writer of Avalon. I have Alan, which is a co-writer with me, and he, you know, I guess co-creator as well. You know, we've kind of collaborated on the idea. I've had this idea for many years, since high school, and I proposed it to Alan. He liked it, so we kind of worked out the kinks for a couple of years there. Last year in March is when we released issue 1, and then from there on out, we've been kind of trying to bang these issues out as fast as possible. So it's just kind of having that back and forth, and, you know, that dynamic between Alan and I. You know, we established a friendship before, so we understood each other, and really trying to bring that friendship and, you know, friends around us and family around us into that comic book as well, and make it, like I mentioned, as real as possible. Now for Demetrius, which is the artist, we would just look for, I guess I looked for months on Instagram, trying to find an artist that I thought suited best for the story that we're telling. And every time I'd find somebody, I'd pitch it to Alan. He would say yes or no, or whatever he thinks, you know, give his opinion on it. And then we found people, didn't work out, too much, you know, didn't work out. And then we ended up hitting on Demetrius, and right out of the gate, I knew he was going to be the one. He was a go-getter right away. Loved the idea, loved the project, loved that he could really start something from start to finish. You know, he's very excited about this, and it's awesome to have him as a fan of the genre, have him a fan as the comic book itself. You know, I send him issues at a time. I don't send him the whole season. And this is even per his request at the most part as well, is he just wants to read it as it comes out as well, so he can read it as a fan first and then kind of look at it as a artist perspective and see what he wants to do, which is exciting for me to hear as, you know, the creator and all that stuff, to have someone like that. But you know, and to touch on his art style as well, the first issue you could kind of tell that we're just trying to feel each other out, figure out what we want and how we want this. And obviously he has a big, you know, impact on how this looks, you know, because he's illustrating, he's showing it off. So issue 1, you can kind of see little things that we're trying to work on. And then when you see issue 2, you could just tell that how our relationship grew over time as well, and how we trust each other now. Even because he's currently drawing issue 4. Just nowadays, it's just easy for me. He pitches an idea and I'm like, yep, I like it. Just shoot for it. You know what I mean? It's like off script, but it doesn't matter. The panel layout off script, but he had a good idea, loved the idea. He did it. And 90% of the times, 99% of the times, they come out really good. So, to establish that relationship with him and I, it's a great feeling for Avalon, for me to kind of have, my baby kind of a lot good things are going for it and all that stuff too.
Yeah.
And everybody on the team is, glad to be here, excited to be here. And we just added a new writer as well for the second volume and all that too. So I'm excited for that. She will be on interviews probably coming up in the summertime, because we're going to be adjusting a couple things in season 1 here. And then, so we're excited about that too, to kind of stretch the team a little more.
That's so cool. Congratulations on bringing on a new collaborator.
Thank you.
When it comes to... Oh God, so many questions to ask. You know what? You've mentioned season 2. So often I find folks creating their first comic, because Avalon is your first comic, correct?
Yes.
Perfect. So they tend to create, and they get very excited, and they create these huge worlds. And so that's what it sounds like following normal, human engagement when you really get passionate about something. How big is Avalon going to be? If all goes well, you can get all your funding, or maybe, I don't know, Scout picks you up or something. Yeah. If money wasn't a problem, how big is Avalon aiming to be?
We're aiming to be very big with Avalon. If, no matter what, I feel like it's just going to be what happens, and Alan and I have had conversations in the past, like, there's no getting away from Avalon now, as much as, like, say it's going down a bad road for a little bit or whatever the case might be, Avalon's still coming. It just might come slower. The reason we need the Kickstarters and the funding and all that stuff is to get it out in a timely fashion and to get more people to look at it, obviously. But no matter what, Avalon is a part of us. It's always going to be there. This just dictates timing, I guess, for the lack of a better term. So it's going to be very big. We have a lot of arcs that are already on paper that we want in the direction that we want. And off the top of my head, probably like 6-7 arcs. And I would consider those almost seasons, I guess, depending on the writing process, if it gets stretched out to 2 parts or whatever it might be, and all that stuff too. Because one thing I figured out from writing issue 1, that is the first draft we were gonna do sucked. It was very bad, and then we pulled it back. We're like, we need to do something different with it, and we stretched that original issue 1 out to 4 issues in this issues 1 through 4. So what you're seeing from issues 1 through 4 was very, 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 very condensed into 1 issue in our first draft. So yeah, that was a learning curve for us to understand that we could really show a lot more instead of condensing all that. Because looking at it now, issues 1 through 3, I'm like, I don't even know how we were gonna condense all that down into 24 pages in 1 issue. But yeah, to shorten that up, it's gonna be big. Yeah.
Perfect. I love the passion. I love the enthusiasm, and the fact that, like you said, if hypothetically, and knock on wood, I hope your campaign goes well, that you hit big, you get way past your goal and all that stuff. If it doesn't, it's good to know that you're like, screw it, we're in, we're going, it's going to happen. It'll just take time. That's awesome. Keep that drive, Brandon. That is so cool. I guess another thing that I wanted to touch on then is, I'm glad that you've changed what would have been issue 1, because another thing that I really enjoyed, and having you had talked about this is where it's sort of clicked for me, is the pacing of the issues I've read, which is 1 to 3, is fantastic.
Thank you.
When a scene has to be slow, like the scenes in the diner, it's slow. It feels right. When the oldest brother and his partner are investigating and things start going a little, things speed up. You have tension in the right spots. You've written it very well. I guess what happened? What clicked to make you go, hold on, let's pull this apart. Let's make it bigger. And what lessons have you taken from that?
I guess just reading it through again. You know, it almost feels like back then when we were like, we've been working on this for a while. At this point, I was making the decision to say, I want this. I want to get going in the next direction, finding an artist and moving forward. And obviously that was the wrong choice, because then we would sit here. We even had an artist for a little bit, and it just wasn't working. I mean, even the scenes I was getting, it wasn't even so much their fault. It was just like I was not loving the script that we had. And then Alan and I were reading it. We're like, yeah, this isn't done yet. You know, this is why this doesn't look so good to us. Just sitting down and kind of accepting that we rushed a little bit when we shouldn't have rushed. And, you know, having that kind of awareness to being like, okay, we need to pull this back and we need to figure this out. You know, I'm glad that we did that, because like I said, seeing the physical ones that are out right now, issues 1 through 3, to see that even condensed into one issue was like, that would have sucked. You know what I mean? You need, like you said, you need a lot of that stuff has breathing space. A lot of that stuff has quick pace and intense scenes and all that stuff too. And that allowed us to expand it. And that's what makes me even think that we're going to have so many more arcs than I originally anticipate, because of that first, you know, failure, I guess, or learning experience, I'll call it, and with issue 1, and taking that back and stretching it out. So there's a lot more to come, and there's a lot more like scenes that we could really let breathe and all that stuff too. And having the proper people around me too is what helps that all kind of come together, because, you know, I put all this on paper, Alan and I go through it, we change things up, and then we have some, you know, unnamed editors look at it that don't want to be named. I know I'd love to give them the credit for it as well, but you know, that's just per their request. But we've had people look at it, and they give some pointers on it. We make proper adjustments. It's great. You know, just almost knowing your place and knowing what you're good at and knowing what you're bad at is what's important through this whole process. And I'm glad that we know a lot of those.
That's fantastic. And the fact that you guys can understand that, you know, you've hit those points, you're like, oh, hold on, we need to break this up, this needs to be bigger. I'm imagining there's probably scenes where you've been like, oh, actually this doesn't need to happen.
Yeah.
The editing process, it can be a bit of a bane for feeling creative, but it is necessary.
It definitely is. Yeah.
So when it comes to the Kickstarter, when is it going live?
We're going to be setting the pre-launch up here by the next 2 weeks. So mid-March is what we're having, at the latest, having the pre-launch out. And then we're hoping to go live probably a month and a half to almost 2 months after that. So we're looking maybe the end of April is when we're going live for this Kickstarter for issues 4 and 5. We're looking at changing a bunch of things up. You know, we're looking at what happened in the last 3 Kickstarters, what worked, what didn't work, and all that stuff. We're kind of putting it all together, almost getting ready for the, you know, for the final part of the season, issue 6 coming at the end of the year. So that issue 6 is kind of building up towards that, so we can really make a almost grand finale for the issue or the series. Come back a little bit for the season. So we're really getting people excited for that, and then boom, coming up with some cool ideas for the last Kickstarter of the year, which would be issue 6 is completing the season and all that stuff too. So that's going to be exciting. There's a lot of cool stuff with issues 4, 5, and 6 coming up, and we're excited to get those moving.
That's fantastic. It's, again, I love the passion. I've come to understand, doing what I do, Brandon, that writing the book, paying your artist or whatever arrangement you have with your artist, and, you know, your editors, if you have a letter or your letter, like what the whole team, because there's a lot of people going to make a comic actually become a comic. That whole process is, well, it's a job. It's a job in and of itself. It takes a lot of time, a lot of creative energy, a lot of fucking hard work. And I now have learned that this thing that you're doing with me, the media hits, the interviews, the podcasts, articles, whatever, plus your own social media, you know, tweeting out about the book. showing images, all that stuff. That is in of itself its own job as well. So you're doing 2 jobs, plus you probably have a day job you do.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, like it takes so much work to get this done. The fact that you're still so passionate about it, because I've seen creators get tired, understandably.
Yeah.
So the fact that you can keep it going, Brandon, please do. And again, as a quick recap for folks, so they can get the first 3 issues in PDF format for $1.99 a piece. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep. On our Shopify store. Yep.
Awesome. And how? What's your Shopify store? Like, how could I Google that?
If you just look up avaloncomic.myshopify.com, our store will just come up. You'll see, the Avalon banner photo on there as well. Just scroll down. You'll see all 3 issues. You'll see a poster there as well. So just kind of click it. You'll click one of the issues, and it'll give you an option to get PDF version of it. Like you mentioned, $1.99 each. And if you're like thinking, oh yeah, this looks cool, let's see what it's about, because the artwork that Demetrius does is very, very good. Even if you're just a big artist person, you like to look at cool artwork and panel work, he does a phenomenal job about it. He's been trying new things. Like I have issue 3 right here. I can kind of show something. One of my favorite pages of issue 3.
Oh, hell yeah.
Where is it? Well, this is one of them on the right here. I don't know if you can see it. Oh, right here on this one, how he kind of uses that infected's face up there.
Got it.
It kind of falls down there. Yep. And this one as well, how he uses the blood to separate all the panels on this page here. So he's just doing a lot of cool things with panel works and all that stuff. A lot of that stuff is him doing it. I'm just trying to get the story out on the paper for him to read. He's the one coming up with the cool illustrations and cool ways to kind of work the panels around and all that stuff too. And and I thank him for that too. And that's what makes Avalon different, I think, is not only the story that you're going to read, but the way we're showing you the story as well with Demetrius's style. It's a whole new, unique way, and we're really proud of it.
I'm glad to hear it. And you know what? You mentioned it. Demetrius is the one who's doing the panel work, basically. What I wanted to say was, well, one, that it's so cool. With what they're doing for you, where they're taking what could be done as like, what do I got here? Is it tape shut? It's fine. I happen to have we have demons here. And here, perfect example. So like, your comic could have been done very simple panel work here. Nothing super creative about it. The bubbles here pop out. Yeah. But in your comic, almost, I think anyway, there are more times when the panel work bleeds or oozes into itself, when things move unexpectedly. The panels themselves sometimes are separated interestingly, and that's such a talent to know how to do, because it does something that is very important for comics, which is guide your eye. Yeah. When it comes to like you said, those are sort of 2 of your favorites so far. Earlier you mentioned like he'll come up with an idea of how to draw a page and just go cool, and you're like, do it. How much freedom does he have with that leeway? Like, have you ever had to turn him down?
Yeah, especially with issue 1, because that was the feeling out process, and kind of like how you showed that comic. I don't think I have an issue 1 around me right now, but issue 1 was really like that, normal panels that you'd see on a normal comic, was feeling it out and all that stuff. And then as he grew as an artist, and as our relationship grew, he pitched to me. He's like, yeah, my artwork has gotten a lot better over the time frame and all that stuff. He's done other his own things, just trying to get better and better, and he did, and he proposed this new style to me, and I was like, love it. That is literally how I envisioned it originally. I'm glad this kind of like worked its way into it. And then also, obviously, it was one of the things where like, this is the style going forward. We're not going to obviously change it anymore. He developed, the story developed, and all that stuff. It worked perfectly, and all that stuff too. And to kind of show issues 2 and 3 like the style that it is now and currently. But to kind of touch on what you were saying as well, after that relationship built over time, there's a lot of freedom he gets, with Avalon's, thing and all that stuff. He will, tell me, we'll go back and forth. I'll tell him about a page. If there's something that needs to be there in a certain way, I'll tell him that, and he understands that. And if there's things that he's like, I have an idea, cool idea, I'll tell him, do it, send it to me, pencils and all that stuff. So we'll see what it looks like. It looks good. Yep. Go shoot for it, you know? And, so a lot of, like I said, 99% of the times he pitches something to me, I'm all for it, you know, and there's just specific things that have to do with story elements, is when I'll go, maybe do it like this instead or something like that. But most of the times it's doing it the way he kind of comes up with it in his head, because I have that trust for him and all that stuff. And I know he loves it, and it comes out good all the time. So that's why it's just like, it's a win-win almost. So
you mentioned earlier, but I just wanted to confirm, and Demetrius, correct?
Yeah. He's
going to be the artist for the foreseeable future on Avalon, right?
I definitely hope so, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, in the world of indie comics, it's not uncommon for someone to go, hey, you know what, on issue 1 we've got this artist, and you know we could afford them at the time, and blah 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 blah, and they were available, and for issue 2 they weren't available because that artist got a project or whatever. The fact that Demetrius is like, yeah, I want to do this, let's continue with it. Awesome.
Yeah.
You get that cohesion that you have.
It's definitely, that was definitely one of the things we were worried about originally, because I didn't want that. I didn't want to keep, because I know people personally that are creating comics around us, and you know they've had to deal with that problem where they have an artist this issue is a different one. This is, you know, it's almost distracting to me as a reader. So I would imagine it's distracting to others as well. I mean, I'm just speaking for myself, I guess, but you know, to have that consistency with the art style and really showing off the story, because the story is going to be the same, because I mean, I'm going to be here, I'm not going to stop it. So to have it be shown the same way as well is all that more important, I think. So it's very consistent. It keeps it just helps it move, you know. You can see the development of the writing and of the art and of the story. So it's just, I think we got very, very lucky with Demetrius. I'm glad he's here. I'm glad he wants to stay, you know, and all that stuff too. We're really excited for things to come too.
It's good to hear. One thing I wanted to ask is the book itself. So the covers, and I'm just confirming literally right now. Yeah. So the art style, the coloring in the book, I should say, is to me really interesting. So the majority of the book is black and white, gray, and hues. And then throughout the book, anytime there's blood, it is done in like a bright red.
Yeah. And
the final page of, as I literally confirmed the 3rd issue, okay, doesn't want to load for me. Whatever. The final page of the last 2 issues, or the first 2 issues, are completely done in color.
Yeah.
And
go ahead. You go ahead.
I was gonna say, can you talk about the decision to do that? Like, whose was it? Who came up with it? Why?
So I didn't grow up like I'm growing up on The Walking Dead, but like, so when I read The Walking Dead, when I first found out it was a comic book, I bought it. You know, it's about season 3 of the show is when I figured out it was a comic book. And okay. I mean, I figured out it was a comic book, but I didn't really start buying it till about season 3 of the show. Yeah. And then I started reading it. I liked it. I loved the black and white. You know, to me, that was like basically my first comic book I actually like invested in and read going forward. Other things I've read here and there, but never like invested into a series like the Walking Dead comic book. So I loved the black and white. The one thing I didn't care for too much about it was not knowing what was blood and not really popping the blood and all that stuff too. So it was kind of like knowing black and white would be cheaper with paying an artist. Mm-hmm. But then I definitely wanted the blood. So I told Alan, black, white, and blood. I think it's cool. You don't really see many comics like that. I mean, there are comics like it, but then I think we went back and forth and we're like, we should make the last page color. That would be cool. It'd be unique. Cause I've never seen something like that. I don't read thousands of comics like a lot of people do though. So maybe there is something like it, but I thought it was a very unique thing to kind of really splash, where our heads are at with the back page. really allow the reader to be like, okay, this is the world, this is what they see, this is the color, this is, now it's almost real life again, rather than it being just a horror kind of suspense through pages 1 through 23, black, white, and blood, and then really splashing real life in the last page. And it's an exciting page 90% of the time. Well, I guess every issue you've seen so far, it's an exciting page that something's happening. So it's just a nice way to color the whole exciting and kind of moving on to the next issue kind of thing. But that it was just black, white, and blood would be cool and cheaper, and it worked out in our favor because I think overall it's unique and cool.
Interesting. Sort of a tangent about that. Do yourself, Alan, or Demetrius read, and correct my names if I sound them wrong, read manga or watch anime? Not like religiously. Like if there's something that people recommend, like, oh, this is good, or watch this or read this, I'll give it a shot. Or if, even if they give me something to read, I'll read it, but not going out of my way to buy something or find something like that. But if somebody tells me of something, I will watch it. Yeah. Interesting. So the reason I bring it up is a lot of collected editions of manga, they will actually have the first page be colored like that. So, when you open up the cover, you've obviously a colored cover, then you've got like a colored first page, and then it's all black and white.
Okay. Yeah.
So you've kind of done the inverse. And what I found interesting is I'm finding more and more nowadays, especially with indie creators, there's a lot of manga inspiration coming into comics. So it was just an interesting thing that kind of happened at the same time.
And it very well could be for Demetrius's case. I have no idea. I don't know if he's a big fan of that stuff or if he goes out of his way to do it, and maybe he kind of does that. But I can't speak for him. I don't know if he does that or not. But if that is the case, I definitely could see what you're saying, though, too. If that is the case where, manga does do that and they do bring that stuff, do it that way, and people are bringing that into the comic world, that isn't something that I'm like, yeah, let's do this. It's just like, it just so happened to be that way.
I think I just lost a really great question in my brain. The medical stuff. So, for fans of The Walking Dead, will be very familiar with, it's a zombie, it's coming to get me slowly. Oh, it's a horde of zombies, and that's terrifying. But there isn't a lot of instance of like, oh, we have a diabetic character who needs to have insulin. Can you touch on sort of the impact that will have in your world and why you wanted to include it?
Yeah, I think it's just it's a very real thing. I have people in my family that have health problems. Everybody does, and it just brings this project and makes it more and more real. Kind of hitting the fictional part with the zombies, I guess, and all that stuff. But then it really establishes that realism with it when you're dealing with everyday anxieties, everyday, kind of depressions or, health problems and all that stuff too. It just, it keeps it like you guessing, and it keeps not only like you have to be worried about the infection or the zombie that you're fighting or the world that you're fighting, but just the way life naturally progresses in general. Somebody takes medications for their heart. They're not worried about dying from this infected. They're worried that, okay, my medicine's done. What am I going to do? You know what I mean? So stuff like that. It just adds another element to the storytelling ability, and then the stresses for the characters that we're creating. Because one of the biggest things I like to do so far is really make certain characters, and a lot of them, very, 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 very stressed out, and really stressing them out as much as possible. And that's been an exciting thing for me to kind of write, especially with the more main characters, is really breaking them down. And, I've always found that interesting, in other shows and movies and all that too, is just making that person very, very, very stressed out. And how do they overcome the stress? What do they do? Do they fall? Do they succeed? All that stuff. So just adding more layers to it, I guess, is the biggest thing to it, and giving it that realism is the other aspect of that.
I'm sure they don't appreciate it, but yeah, us readers do. You know what? Hopefully an easy question. So far, what's been like the most exciting part about making this comic for you?
Just having it come to life, and then going to events. I've mentioned this on a couple of my social medias. The most fun part for me, at least, is going to the events, having people interested in this, this thing that we're working on, and then having people come up and kind of share their opinions on it, share their thoughts on the story, what they like, and all that stuff. And that's the fun part for us, and really talking to people who are interested in what we got. That's exciting for us. And I've always, I've had this thing about, even when I was younger watching The Walking Dead, it was always nice to have everybody, looking at it from the outside now, it's like kind of whatever, but having people like interested in it, talking about it, because I was very interested in The Walking Dead and stuff like that, and have people talk about stuff like that. It was cool for me, and I kind of bring that feeling into Avalon and what we got now, and have people interested in the genre that we're creating in, talking about our story and letting us know what they feel about it and all that stuff. That's a really fun thing for me. And obviously having them in physical form, you see them on the computer, you see them, it's awesome, it's cool, it's coming to life. But when you have it in physical form, it makes it all that much better.
Fantastic. Definitely one of the things that continually people say is like, my comic's real. Like when they actually get to hold that physical copy, that's so cool. And then the sense of community is something that I don't think I've met a comic creator yet who's like, no, I don't like going to cons and talking with people about it. I just want them to buy it. Like every single one of them is like, it's the coolest thing.
Yeah.
To have people engaged, to see that community getting built. So congratulations. That's super cool.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's definitely fun. It's definitely exciting every time we do end up going out and going to an event, going to a signing or whatever it might be. It's always a good experience.
Fantastic. So we've talked quite a bit about the book. One thing I do like to ask, and I guess now it's 2 questions. That happens so quick for me. For the Kickstarter campaign, for those who have never done a Kickstarter, one thing that I like to make sure is very clear. So when I've talked to people about doing Kickstarters that they've never done it before, a lot of the fear is, what if I don't get the book? What if it never gets made? So first and foremost, I like to state this. If the book doesn't reach its funding goal, you don't have to pay for it.
Sure. Yeah.
Cool. I like that part. Now, for the folks that are already in, so for your, I think for your last 3, you've had, well, in triple digits in backers, I believe. They're probably going to continue supporting you. But for the new folks out there, what would the cost of the basic tier be to get like just a PDF copy of 4 and 5?
Of just 4 and 5 for the PDF? I think right now what we got written on there, I don't have it in front of me right now, but I think it's just going to be $10, for the 4 and 5, and that's just a lot of that is because it's like, let's move forward with it and all that stuff. And then what we got for the PDF for all 3 of them, I think that's when we or all 5 of them, I mean, that's when we kind of bring the price down a little bit. So if you get all 5, you're getting more for less and all that stuff too. So I'm pretty sure that's what we got going on there, but I don't have it in front of me, so don't quote me too much on it. But yeah,
fair, but fairly inexpensive. You'll end up with 5 books. Awesome.
Yeah.
For the folks like myself who like physical media, do you yet know the pricing on what 4 and 5 will be for physical?
4 and 5 with physical, I think is either going to be $12 for both of them. I think is what we're looking at. $12. Yeah, I think so. 12.
Awesome.
If this is what I'll do. If it's not $12, it's going to get switched to $12.
Well,
that's what I'll do.
Fairly inexpensive, and for most comics nowadays, like Terry Moore's Parker Girls, that's $4. So you're in at about like standard pricing, which is fantastic, especially because you're taking on the cost of paying the artist, getting the printing done, all of that fun stuff, plus shipping. And I hope your shipping goes well, by the way. I hope your printing goes off without a hitch in one shot, and all your shipping's just easy.
Yes. That's always nice to have the shipping process the easiest process, because that could definitely go south quick.
Yeah. Ooh. I've heard nightmare stories. That's why whenever I have someone on, I wish them the best on it, because it's scary. Now, something I did want to make sure is clear is you're doing 4 and 5, and earlier you mentioned 4 is currently being drawn.
Yeah.
Is the aim to have 4 and 5 totally finished by like the time the campaign is over? Is it going to be 4 will be done, 5 will become later? What's the idea? So
the idea right now is 4 will be done by the end of the campaign, completely, with the artwork and all that stuff. So as soon as the campaign's ended, we will order the physical copy and all that stuff, and as soon as those are in, we're shipping those out. I had a date written down. I think at the latest, 5 will be done with everything, and by the end of October. I think that's the September or October is when we're looking at that. I think those 2 months is what are ringing a bell right now. So that will be done as well. And as soon as that is done, same deal. We print the comics, we get them sent to us, and then we send them out. So it's not, unfortunately, unless somebody simply comes out and reaches out to us and goes, I just sent them to me all at once, we'll do that. But the idea is right now, as soon as the Kickstarter's done, 4 is going to be printed, 4 is going to be shipped out, and with the stuff that comes along with it. The only thing that will be sent out separately will be this physical issue 5, and if there's a variant cover and all that stuff as well. Though the 5 bundle will be sent out separately. If there's posters, there's going to be a cool thing that we're doing as well. I talked to Demetrius, since he is in Greece, there's going to be a lot of rare things that he does. So we're going to have him do. There's only going to be 5 of them being sold. It's going to be a big package, big bundle. A lot of it is going to be paying, I guess, from shipping, because it's going to cost a lot to come from Greece for here. But it's going to be original pencils. He's going to draw it on paper, big poster, and he's going to sign it as well. He's going to ship that over here. We're only selling 5 of them. It's going to be a 2-character duo, and we have all of them, 2 characters per poster. I think it's gonna be like, it's the size of like 11 by 17. I think pretty big poster. Size, yeah. So he's gonna be doing original poster pencils. Sign it, send that over to me, and whoever gets those is getting original artwork by Demetrius.
That is so cool.
Yeah. Wow. I am glad that he is doing that too. I was hoping that he was going to do it, and obviously he was all about it. So I'm glad that's happening, and that ends up working out too, because that's going to be cool for even me. I might even have him make me something.
I mean, yeah, that writer or creator, that seems right. Then we've kind of covered all the important stuff. We've covered your socials. So basically, if anyone Googles Avalon comic, or is there on Instagram, Twitter, whatever, they'll find you. The Kickstarter campaign itself is going to launch. The pre-registration page will be within the first 2 weeks of March.
Yeah. Yep.
The campaign itself will be April, May time.
It'll be at the latest. It'll be launched by the end of April. That's what we're looking at. So we're looking at probably a month and a half, almost 2 month pre-launch. So kind of get people going, send it out there. Obviously, share it out everywhere and all that stuff. So that's gonna be the plan. Get some hype behind it, and then we'll be going with it, and it'll be a fun ride.
Perfect. And then, like you said, everyone should have 4 and 5 by end of, say, October-ish.
October, yeah. The artwork will most definitely be done by that time. He's 100% confident that he's going to get it done. There's not going to be anything crazy. The only thing would be the stupid things we can't control, like the printing company, if they ship it in or stuff like that. That would be the only reason it would be further. But that's what we're looking at. We might do the fulfillment date a month later, just in case of that stuff. But he's confident. We're confident that we're going to have the artwork done before then. So it won't be anything on our end, that it'll be sent out.
Beautiful. And again, that is why I wish you the best on the printing stuff, because I've heard nightmares. Then, you know what, for the last little bit, Brandon, because like I said, we've covered a lot. I do like for people to get to know you. So there's sort of 2 questions that I keep asking that I just find cool. And the first one, I guess, will be, oftentimes folks that create comics are themselves comic readers. Like I said, you've invested in The Walking Dead. I imagine you're a nerd in some other capacity as well.
Yeah.
What would you say is, like, if you could only show one thing, what would be that thing that sort of sums up your interests, your collection, your library, whatever it is? What's the thing that makes you the most happy that you have?
I mean, honestly, looking past this, my room's a disaster, but I have a coffee table full of, Walking Dead comics, and it would be that. And I know I already mentioned that and all that stuff too. I collect the deluxe editions now where they come out, the color and all that stuff too. So every other week I'm grabbing those. I have a good amount of Batman things as well. And just to, I guess, touch on comic books that I like too is, Batman, Walking Dead. I like little horror comics, like even 30 Days of Night. I've read those as well. Those are really good. And it took me a while to even read those. I watched a movie. I love the movie. It has a lot of inspiration. I have to take a lot of inspiration from it. And just recently, within a year or two ago, is when I read those. And I was like, I think there's 3 versions of them, 3 different stories, I think is what it is, two at the very least, but loved them. They're great, and take inspiration from that as well, but just love things like that. I love horror stuff. I love Evil Dead. I don't know if that's kind of relevant to what you asked, but I have a lot of Evil Dead stuff. I have the Deadite Ash mask over over cool. here as well, so yeah, try to collect a lot of things, and my room would explain it if I didn't blur it out.
As a collector myself, like, I'm sitting next to, my whole comic collection. I've got 8 long boxes plus a few short boxes on top, right next to me. Plus this, there's a matching one on the other side of the room full of books. Totally get it.
Well, you definitely, yours looks a lot more organized. Mine used to be organized, but then. You get life, and then you get too much, and you don't know where to put things, and then it just starts to collect. But yeah.
I know that pain. You kind of touched on it. That you've read like 30 Days of Night, The Walking Dead. What is it currently that you're reading? Whether it's comics, real books, whatever it is. What are you actively reading now?
Currently, I'm not reading anything, and that's a very big disappointment for myself and probably anybody who's listening. The biggest focus right now has been just Avalon, trying to find many ways, because like you mentioned as well, daytime job, the creating part of this thing. I'm actually working on short films as well, scripting short films and all that stuff. I'm working on a feature film.
Wow.
And so just a bunch of different things. So I'm not currently reading anything or investing a lot of time. I mean, I will say I'm watching The Last of Us, so I don't know if that counts, but other than that, it's very well just trying to, get the creation stuff moving around in different ways, different directions. And with Avalon specifically, it's just trying to find marketing ways of getting it out there, trying to find interviews, and thank you for having me again. And then, and just all that stuff. And then trying to find time for the creating, like I mentioned too. So just a bunch of different things I'm working with here, and everything's going well in that category. The only thing is I don't get a lot of time for the entertainment, like reading stuff and all that stuff. But yeah.
I was going to say, you are a very busy man. Holy cow. Yeah. You know what? Quick selfless promo for yourself, for your short films you're working on, your feature film you're working on, which is so cool. Yeah. Where can people support you with that if they so chose?
So there's nothing out there specifically that we're out there yet. We're looking to film. This will be like my first thing, with the writer. With the writer that I brought on for Avalon, she's done this before. And so we're working together in this category. We're looking to get 2 short films filmed in the springtime and putting them into film festivals in this summertime too. So all that stuff will be on my personal thing, which would be, Brandon Starocci and my Twitter and all that stuff too. And then we'll have our website out. There's just going to be a lot of moving pieces, and all that stuff will be updated, through Avalon's pages, through my Twitter and all that stuff too. And We're going to have, like I said, a web page that you see with the 1282 logo here. We're going to be making a 1280. That's kind of Alan and I's brand that we're kind of moving for our production, I guess, for lack of a better term. And that's going to be even bigger starting this summer. We're going to actually make a web page for that. Avalon's going to be in that. Short films are going to be around there and all that stuff. So it's just going to be a bunch of different things coming up in the summertime.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Brandon, you are fantastic. My last question for you today, quite simple, I hope it is what do you want the folks out there to know?
Just Avalon's here to stay. Avalon's a fun story. Avalon's exciting story, suspenseful story and all that stuff too. It just we got a lot of things coming. Even like I just mentioned as well with the short films and all that stuff too. Those will be out there. Avalon's going to be out there. And just kind of stay tuned, follow us, share us around, tell people you think would be interested in it, so get in front of more eyes and all that stuff. And let's get this train going.
I love it. Absolutely, Brandon. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show today.
Thank you for having me again.
Oh, anytime. And for the folks out there in YouTube land, all the links down below, you'll be able to find Brandon's socials, the Kickstarter link, the big one. And yeah, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you thought of Brandon, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Golden age to present, digest to oversize. Never miss new comic day. Yeah, no surprise. So where's my no prize? Check the letter columns. Can't find issue 2? Yeah. Collector problems, cliffhangers, mysteries. You need answers. When did Batman become Green Lantern? I get it. True believer, not lying. Always up for an awesome summer crossover.